Loading. Welcome to Access the Animus.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Access the Animus. Today we're gonna try and have a video analysis of the latest Assassin's Creed movie trailer. We're gonna try and show the characters, the environments, and we're gonna try and dig up some of the Easter eggs contained in it.
You're here to save my soul.
I understand it's your birthday.
Yeah. The party's just getting started.
Okay, let's begin with the analysis. As we see, we are in Aguilar's prison cell, which has all of its walls covered with lines and text and drawings. We have already analyzed some of them, but what really matters is what we see in this picture. In fact, we're seeing some of the drawings that Aguilar did and then hanged on the walls. And in those, we can see some hooded figures and some crosses, meaning that somehow, some way, Aguilar already met the Assassins and Templars world. And bear in mind that up until this moment, Aguilar hasn't been captured and hasn't been on the Animus yet. So he must have seen some of those elements and things in some other ways that still haven't been explained. What follows is a very important scene, and it may have misled some of the fans. In fact, Alan Rickman pronounces Callum Lynch's name.
His name is Callum Lynch.
In fact, based on some of the previews of some journalists that were able to see the first 20 minutes of the movie, the person that we see captured by the police in this picture may be Callum's father. As a matter of fact, in some of those previews, spoiler alert, it was written that in 1988, young Callum went to a city in a desert area, and in this city he found a green hooded man, and that man was revealed to be his father. So it's possible that we're looking at him right now. Another interesting fact that can be gathered from this picture is that the police force doesn't seem to be affiliated with Abstergo in any way. In fact, they don't wear any kind of Abstergo logo on their suit. On the other hand, though, and this is a funny fact, they have a sort of a yellow-orange electronic device on their back, which makes them seem more like division agents rather than Abstergo ones. At this point, and for a very brief moment, we have a flash forward that shows Callum's character before telling his story. Now, this picture really drew our attention, and it's very consistent with what Rickman said.
We've traced his bloodline back 500 years to the Assassin's Creed.
Because some of these weapons are related to the historical period in which Aguilar lived. For example, at the center of the picture in the foreground, we can see the so-called flail, which is a weapon that probably was used by the guards during the Spanish Inquisition era. On the left, we can see a star-shaped weapon, which was shown very recently at Gamescom this year, paired with Maria's costume, so that's one of Maria's weapons. And then, at the center of the picture, behind the flail, we can see some smoke bombs that probably were used by Aguilar. And what is interesting about those is that they are bearing the assassin insignia on top of them. This picture didn't attract our attention only because of these weapons, but also for the other ones that are placed on the table. As a matter of fact, these are the first Easter egg that appears in the trailer. For example, in the background we can see Edward Kenway's pistol, or I should say Edward Kenway's flintlocks. These pistols were used many times in many concept arts and promotional material. On the right side of the picture we can see the sword cane, or I should say the top part of Jacob Fry and Evie Fry's sword cane. And in the background, we can also see what seems to be a brown crossbow. It's not really easy to see it, and we hope that maybe in the movie it's going to be shown from some other point of view to see if that is another Easter egg too. Moving on, we can see a Templar shield and a sword, which are other elements that can be found in present-day Abstergo that represent the historical period that we're going to delve into in a few moments. What we just saw may have been Aguilar's initiation into the Assassin's Brotherhood. And it's interesting to see because for the first time we are able to see the Spanish Brotherhood in the Assassin's Creed movie. We can see that they are numerous. We can count at least 12 to 14 of them. Among them, it's possible to spot an assassin that stands out because of his brighter, even white robes. And it's possible that he may be the mentor. We can see him at the beginning of the part dedicated to the Spanish Brotherhood, and we hope to see him more inside the movie because he may be a relevant figure for Aguilar.
Cal, as anyone in the world knows or cares, you no longer exist.
In this scene, we see Callum running, frightened and possibly shocked by the revelations that he obtained by Sophia Ricken. And it's interesting to see this kind of environment in the Abstergo building. We see this sort of boardwalk that separates a garden area on the left with some trees, and another area on the right where all the prisoners and test subjects that Abstergo kidnapped can walk peacefully. And it's interesting to see how many of them are here in this room.
What is this place?
Callum's running comes to an end in another garden area that we already saw in the first trailer of the movie. And in this area, he meets two of the other assassins that will support him in the next sequences. The first one is Lynch, and we know from previous reports that she has an ancestor, a female ancestor in 16th century China, who, as any fan would guess, is probably going to be Xiao Jun. The second assassin is Musa, played by Michael K. Williams, who was confirmed in the past to be the descendant of Baptiste, the assassin turned ally of the Templars in Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. Here the trailer shows us something really interesting. In fact, we are seeing the exterior of the Abstergo building. As many of you may remember, at the beginning of the movie marketing campaign, we were shown Alan Ricken's business card, and inside of it there was a mention that he was working in the Abstergo Industries building in Madrid, Spain. The fact that the Abstergo building is in Madrid is even more proven by what we see in the background. In fact, what we see is the Vicente Calderón Stadium, which is the home stadium for Atletico Madrid Football Club. Going back at the Abstergo building, we can see that Abstergo hasn't changed. In fact, we can see its classic minimalist style on the exterior of the building too. If we take a look at the roof, we can see at least two particular elements. On the left side, we can see some sort of glass sloping kind of roof, and if we take a look at the center instead, we can find a sort of a glass dome. Keep that in mind because it might come back in the future scenes of the trailer.
This is your second chance.
During the preparations for Callum's Animus session, we can see one of Sophia Ricken's subordinates going to a glass case to get Aguilar's hidden blades. Those will be used to raise Callum's synchronization with his ancestor. But what's interesting is what stays in the glass case. In fact, we can see more than one weapon. At the top, for example, we can see an iron knife, and at the bottom of the case we can see two other gauntlets with, inside of each of them, we can see two needles. They really seem like Maria's hidden blades. And if that is true, then we might have a reference to Maria too here.
What do you want from me?
Your past. You're about to enter the Animus. What you see, hear, and feel are the memories of your ancestor, who's been dead for 500 years.
Wait a minute!
Welcome to the Spanish Inquisition.
While the Animus is still being prepared, we'd like to take a look at this picture. What we see seems like some sort of tank that contains some very advanced technology, or even some futuristic technology. Some members of our team even went as far as thinking that there might be some first civilization technology inside of this tank. This is also supported by another element that we see in a later scene. In fact, what we see here on the right is a technological object, a technological element that stays over the tank and comes from the roof and have several sharp edges at its bottom. And if you look at every tip of these sharp edges, they all are light blue, which is the color that usually is associated with the first civilization technology. This is therefore rather interesting, and we hope that it's going to be explained more in the movie. And at last we can see the Animus arm in all its glory. While we see it unfold in the room and we can check its technology, we can also see a very brief scene with Alan Rickman showing off his best Darth Vader impression with this very big red lights behind him, showing that he is the bad guy checking his experiment. But let's get back to the Animus arm. If we take a look behind the Animus arm, we can see a glass dome. In our opinion, this dome is the same that we saw on the roof of the Abstergo building in the previous scene. Okay, let's pause at this moment because we can see at the bottom left hand corner of the screen another Easter egg that was already shown in the previous trailer. It is of course the Animus 2.0 that was shown in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. And even if it's a bit tiny in this picture, if we go back to this other scene we can see it a bit bigger, even if it's a bit blurrier.
Welcome to the Spanish Inquisition.
In this scene, we can see the first representation of an Animus session in the present day, and this is strictly connected to the idea and the representation of the Animus in the movie. In fact, we can see Callum interacting with the guards that are actually fighting Aguilar in the past. This visual representation is directly connected to the idea of a dynamic animus. In fact, if the animus used were the usual chair that we have seen in various ways in the games, all of this kind of representation wouldn't have been possible. Because of this, the choice of a dynamic arm as an animus seems to be appropriate in the movie.
What I saw in there, it felt real.
Oh, and here we are in front of one of the elements that caused a lot of confusion and a lot of discussion inside the community. That is the presence or absence of the ring finger in Aguilar's right hand. A few days ago we created a post on the Access the Animus Facebook page where we stated that the trailer erased every kind of doubt about this situation. In this post we showed this picture that comes right after an air assassination scene, And we showed this picture that comes from the bleeding effect scene. As you can see, even in this picture, Aguilar is missing the ring finger from his right hand. At first we thought that this was caused by the initiation that we saw at the beginning of the trailer, but that may not be entirely the case. In fact, if we go back a few frames from here, we can see that Aguilar, while he's in mid-air during the air assassination scene, Aguilar is having all 5 fingers in his hand. This might have been an editing issue, but then again, if we look at the car chase sequence that is shown later in the trailer, we can see Aguilar jumping from a wagon to another wagon, and during this jump, we can see again that he is having all 5 fingers in his hand. This gets even trickier from the lore standpoint. In fact, in the Middle Ages, Altair abolished the rule through which assassins had to remove their ring finger to use a hidden blade. And on top of that, the ring finger had to be removed so that the blade could work. But if we take a look at this scene, Callum doesn't have to remove his ring finger to use Aguilar's hidden blades. So there still is some lingering confusion about this, and we hope that all of this will be solved when the movie comes out.
It was.
We're watching you.
This might be another relevant scene. In fact, we can see a botanic area where all the prisoners can work and study some herbs, and another important element of this picture is, of course, this character that is staring at Callum. In fact, he may play a relevant role in the present day of the movie. This scene helps us noticing a new piece of Aguilar's equipment. Of course, we're talking about the rope launcher / grappling hook that works in a similar way to the one used by the Fry twins. In fact, here we can see it saving him from certain death.
I believe you are destined for great things.
Let's find out.
If we stop at this moment, it's interesting to notice the weapons used by the 4 assassins. On the left we can see Musa with the staff/spear, which is a weapon that was very common when his ancestor Baptiste was alive. Then we have Lynch with a rope dart and a dagger, which were weapons that were used by Xiao Jun. Then on the right we see an assassin that should be called Nathan that is holding a sword that maybe is connected to one of his ancestors too. And then at the center of the scene we see Callum holding a bow that is not exactly the same as the one used by Aguilar in the action scenes, and that may be a representation of Connor's bow. In fact, as it was mentioned multiple times in the past, Connor's bow should make an appearance in the Assassin's Creed movie, much like the other weapons connected to the other Assassin's Creed games did, like we showed earlier. And here we are in front of an unexpected and unannounced assassin who is wearing dark and very finely decorated robes with an assassin insignia on his chest. And while his robes may be similar to Maria's ones, his dagger is much more similar to Connor's one. In fact, if you look closely, the blade rotates under his hand and then becomes a dagger with which he is able to finish off his opponent. We should definitely keep an eye on this assassin, as his role may become relevant in Aguilar's story. Let's stop very briefly here, because if we go frame by frame, we're able to spot a piece of equipment that is dear to a lot of Assassin's Creed fans, the smoke bombs. In fact, we can see Musa throwing 2 smoke bombs in front of 2 Abstergo agents.
We work in the dark to serve the light.
After all these serious fight scenes, we'd really like to show you this facial expression by Aguilar while he's hitting an enemy with a torch. We really wish you never to find anyone like this in front of you, but if you really do, we suggest you to run for your life.
We are assassins. I'm beginning to like this.
And lastly, we stop at this sort of post-credit scene because it's in the present day and possibly in one of the last scenes in the present day. In fact, Callum says that he's beginning to like his condition, and that probably means that he's been in the Animus at least once or twice. What's even more interesting though is the drawing behind Marion Cotillard's back. In fact, we can see some sort of stylized version of an Apple of Eden with, on top of it, the assassin insignia. Being that it appears on a trailer, we can't but hope that it gets more explored in the movie. And that was it for this video analysis. What did you like and what did you dislike about the video? Did you find anything else in the trailer that we didn't point out? Please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.